This is Jared Shaw from Dallas calling for help as he is being arrested in Indonesia. Police say they intercepted a package sent to him by a woman in Thailand. Delta 9 THC candies and gummies worth about $400 that they allege he planned to sell and share with other players. Strictly illegal in Indonesia. Jared Shaw's fate is less certain in Indonesia, where even the death penalty can be imposed for large-scale trafficking, but says that health reasons spurred him to import the intercepted supply of 132 gummies this year. I made a stupid mistake. He says, it's the thing, man. I don't give a you or y'all going to get enough of playing with these foreign people with these bars, man. Jared Shaw played college ball in the US and has spent the last 5 years building a career in Indonesia. But now he's facing a possible death sentence over weed gummies. Now, to really understand what Jared is up against, you have to understand how Indonesia handles illegal substance use and is nothing like the US. In Indonesia, there's no such thing as medical marijuana. There's no gray area, no dispensaries, no exceptions. Under the country's narcotics law, cannabis is in the same category as Schedule I substances in the US. That's right. Weed sits in the same box as the hardest things you could find out there. And if you're caught with just a small amount, you can get 4 to 12 years in prison. But once you cross certain weight limits, or if the police think you're importing or distributing, the punishment jumps straight to life in prison or the death penalty. And yes, Indonesia still uses firing squads. The latest out of Indonesia, where reports indicate the government executed 4 prisoners at this detention facility early Friday morning. They were sentenced to death by firing squad overlated offenses. 10 other prisoners, many of them foreign nationals, are also on death row. Jared Dwayne Shaw is a professional basketball player from Dallas, Texas, who played high school ball at Dallas Carter, then moved on to Oklahoma State and later Utah State. After college, he didn't make it to the NBA, so like many other players looking to keep their career alive, he took his talents overseas. Shaw landed in Indonesia, joining the Indonesian Basketball League. Over the past 5 years, he's played for multiple teams, including the Tangerang Hawks, and built a reputation as a solid, reliable player. And he wasn't just passing through. Indonesia has been his home, his workplace, and his community for half a decade. Farmers, why Tangerang Hawks? What makes it so compelling for you to be back to Indo? I see opportunity with a group of young guys that have potential. I want to take a team to the playoffs. So this would be the perfect opportunity to show that I can be a leader. So this isn't a story about a tourist making a dumb mistake. Jared has lived there long enough to understand the culture, the rules, and the risks. He's a professional athlete with visibility and influence, which makes this case even bigger in the public eye. Foreigners in Indonesia are often reminded that local laws are strict, especially when it comes to narcotics. The country has some of the harshest substance penalties in the world, and even a minor misstep can become a legal nightmare. It's basically a system built on zero tolerance, and the government stance is simple. Substances destroy society, and anyone who brings them in should be treated like a threat to public safety. The recent poll that the government do is that 85% of the people remains pro the death penalty, considering the emergency situation that we are facing now. So you would dismiss what the UN describes as not the most serious of crimes, drug trafficking offenses. It's not dismissed because if we talk about the human right, you have also to consider the human right from the different angle about the victim of the drug trafficking, the drug abuse. If we talk about that 5 million person are undergoing rehabilitation, then count how many parents that encounter sadness during their life because of their children is facing this drug use. So what about the future of these children? What about the future of Indonesian young generation? So draconian death by firing squad. Again, it remains in our past. This zero-tolerance policy has been the law in Indonesia since the 1970s, and every few years they make a public example out of someone to remind the world. 2 Australians convicted in Indonesia of smuggling along with 1 Nigerian and 4 other drug offenders have been notified by authorities that they could possibly be executed by firing squad in a matter of days. 3 days before their execution, inmates will be transported to Nusa Kambangan Island of Java in Indonesia. At midnight, each inmate will be in separate isolated grassy areas by a squad of 12 executioners. The inmates will wear a white shirt and be led to the execution area by a priest or cleric. They will be given 3 minutes to calm themselves. The prisoners will be blindfolded and asked if they wish to stand, sit, or kneel. Afterward, a doctor will place a mark over their hearts. The firing squad commander will then yell, "Do it!" to the executioner standing within 5 to 10 meter range. Only 3 of the marksmen have live ammunition. The rest will have blanks. If the prisoner is still alive after the initial shots, The commander will then fire a final into their head above the ear at point-blank range. Indonesia has harsh punishments for crimes. So far, 6 executions have been carried out this year. There have been plenty of cases like this in Indonesia, and foreigners don't get any special privileges. 2 Australians from the infamous Bali 9 were executed in 2015 for moving and selling illegal substances. A 67-year-old British woman, Lindsay Sanderford, was sentenced to death in 2013 for smuggling, and she's still sitting on death row. And even locals caught growing or selling cannabis have been executed. In fact, for foreigners, the situation is often worse. The courts tend to come down harder, especially when there's international attention. It's their way of saying our laws apply to everyone. So, when police found those cannabis gummies in Jared Shaw's apartment, that automatically pushed the case into dangerous territory. Even if it was just candy for medical use, prosecutors can treat it as illegal substance importation. And once you're charged with importing substances in Indonesia, the maximum penalty is death. So here's what happened to Jared. On May 7, 2025, Jared's life changed overnight. Indonesian authorities arrested him in Tanggerang Regency just outside Jakarta. Police say they found 132 cannabis-infused gummies in his apartment, nearly a kilo in total weight. Now, Jared claims the gummies were for his Crohn's disease, a condition he's battled for years. He says he used cannabis to manage his symptoms and may have shared a few gummies with teammates. But Indonesian law doesn't make exceptions for personal or medical use, especially when foreign nationals are involved. The country treats all substance possession, trafficking, and distribution as major offenses, and the penalties can be life in prison or even the death penalty for certain quantities. According to authorities, the gummies found in Jared's apartment were imported from Thailand, which recently decriminalized cannabis. But that doesn't matter in Indonesia. Bringing any amount of cannabis into the country, regardless of where it came from, can trigger severe charges. After his arrest, Jared's teammates terminated his contract, and the Indonesian Basketball League banned him from playing for life. The chair of the league said in a statement, "We don't tolerate players, administrators, or anyone in the field involved in drugs. There is no room for drug users in the basketball world." Meanwhile, the story quickly spread online, sparking international attention. Fans, journalists, and legal analysts started questioning the fairness of prosecuting a foreign athlete and how someone could end up in such a situation. But the case is complicated. On one hand, Jared has a medical condition and says he never intended to sell the gummies. On the other hand, the legal threshold in Indonesia is low, and authorities are known to apply the law strictly to foreigners. Past cases, including high-profile arrests like the Bali 9, show that Indonesia doesn't hesitate to hand down life sentences or even capital punishment when prosecutors can prove possession or intent to distribute. And this is why Jared Shaw's story isn't just a story about someone getting caught with weed. He's lived in a country with one of the toughest legal systems in the world for 5 years. And he must have understood the consequences of messing with any type of substance over there, especially as a professional athlete. For Jared, this legal context means that even if his intent was personal use, prosecutors could argue he was trafficking based on the amount that was seized. The law allows little room for negotiation, and past cases showed that the courts rarely cut foreigners any slack. And now Jared's arrest has sparked a heated debate online, and it breaks down into 2 main camps. On one hand, a lot of people are saying the punishment is extreme. Life in prison or the death penalty for cannabis, especially in the form of gummies for personal or medical use, really sounds excessive. Besides that, Jared has a documented medical condition and claims he only planned to use the gummies himself or share a few with teammates. So you have a lot of people now saying things like, death penalty for weed is crazy and getting the death penalty for cannabis is insane? But on the other hand, there are also a lot of folks saying that Jared should have known better. He has been living and playing in Indonesia for 5 years. As a professional athlete with visibility and influence, he should be aware of local laws, especially when it comes to substances. And when you cross borders, you're agreeing to play by the rules of that country. Jared may have had a medical reason, but the law in Indonesia is clear. And as someone with experience playing there for 5 years, he had plenty of time to educate himself. He already played in Indonesia for 3 seasons. He should have known better, one fan said. Someone else wrote, "How stupid or entitled you got to be to smuggle in Indonesia." And another person pointed out that Jared was also seen on video resisting arrest and trying to fight the police and said, "Getting caught with drugs and resisting arrest in Indonesia. You are done, bro." So what actually happens now? For Jared, the stakes are high. The 132 gummies seized could be enough for prosecutors to argue trafficking, which is why people are talking about the possibility of execution. But it's not automatic. Past cases show that foreigners often get long prison sentences rather than the death penalty, especially if there's evidence of personal or medical use. Legal teams typically challenge the charges by questioning the THC content versus the total weight, proving a lack of intent to distribute or highlighting medical necessity. And then diplomatic pressure could also play a role. High-profile cases sometimes get attention from embassies or human rights organizations,